Welcome to You, Me in the Counselling World, the podcast dedicated to student counsellors and their road to getting qualified and beyond. Sometimes it just gets all too much. Today we're going to talk about it. Hello. Happy New Year. I know it's the 15th of January that as I sit here recording this today, but I just want to say Happy New Year. I hope you had a lovely Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, and I hope that it was everything that you needed it to be. And that might have just been time to stop and reflect and recalibrate, or it might have been lots of parties. It might have been a mixture of both. But whatever it was for you, I hope that it filled you up in some way. And for those of you that don't celebrate Christmas, I hope that you've had some space if that's what you've needed. So I just wanted to say hello to you all and thank you for your patience whilst I've been missing in action. I'm here today to just talk about sometimes when life gets tough, when things get to be too much. Many of you will be on this counselling training process, and I know that it's really challenging sometimes. So I just wanted to reach out and share some thoughts and tips and maybe ideas for times when it all just gets too much, it all just gets too tough. And sometimes that happens, and I just want to say that's okay. It's horrible, but it's okay. So yeah, life's challenging, right? And it really is. And I sit here thinking about my own challenges and what I do when things get tough for me. And I wanted to just muse and share some thoughts with you, really. And I think the first thing I would say, if you suddenly feel that you're panicking about something, maybe something's not gone quite to plan with your placement, or you've got lots and lots and lots of assignments due in all at the same time, or you're trying to do a research project together with other people and nobody's pulling in the same direction, just stop for a moment and don't panic. The phrase that comes to my mind often is "this too will pass." So this will move, things will change, and it won't last forever, but it is hard when you're in it. And I really, really want to acknowledge that, just how difficult it is when suddenly you've got placement and you've got supervision and you've got clients and you've got all the work and you're trying to attend college and you're trying to be everything that you're supposed to be. But that supposed to be is in your mind only. Often it will be your pressure that you're placing upon yourself. But I do recognise there is also pressures from other people at this stage of your training. And it can be challenging. And I really feel for you because, I've been there. I've been there as a student, and I've been there, obviously much more recently as a tutor. And I know the level of overwhelm that can happen. I know that people get very overwhelmed. It's very emotional and very challenging. And I don't want this podcast today to be all doom and gloom, but I do just want to acknowledge just how hard it is and that I recognise that. So the first thing I would say is just stop for a moment. Don't panic, and just start to reflect on how you are. And I know that can be really tough when you're in a place where your mind is running away with you and you're worried and you're upset and you're anxious. But just trust for a moment that everything will be okay. This too will pass. Another thing that I think is really important is finding a way to recalibrate yourself. And that can be really tough when you feel that you're rushing to get things done and you're trying to squeeze so many things in because you're desperately trying to get it ticked off. But sometimes we become not productive through doing that, through not nourishing ourselves, whether that's with food and exercise and water, or whether that's not nourishing ourselves emotionally and mentally. We need to be able to nourish. Because, as I say a lot to my supervisees, to my clients and to my students, we can't pour from an empty cup. The more we try and give out, the more depleted we're going to get. And so it's about, how do I manage myself and how do I manage my needs in order to move through this in the best way that I can. And I think it's important that you recognise that your emotions are yours and they're valid, but they belong to you. And sometimes we need to take a moment to really question why we're feeling what we're feeling. Before we start reaching out to other people, we need to understand what's going on for me. Because I think it's really important that the waters aren't muddied, that you get to sit and just think about what is it that's giving me this feeling? What is it that's making life so difficult for me right now? Just really take a moment, because it's in taking that moment that you're able to sometimes come up with a plan. I've said it before and I shall say it again, that so often for me, it's when I'm out walking, if I go for a walk somewhere, usually after sort of 10 or 15 minutes, I start to feel like the thoughts start to become a little bit clearer and the water doesn't seem quite so muddy anymore. And I start to have a few little kind of, light bulb moments or epiphany moments where things start to fall into place. But to do that, I need to go without any podcast. Ironically, no podcast, right? No music or anything like that. I just need to be able to walk on my own. And all of a sudden, after that sort of amount of time, for me, sometimes, not always, things start to shift. So that's worth thinking about as a way to recalibrate. Some people like to meditate and sit and meditate, and that can be really helpful. Really, really zone in on what am I feeling? What are the pressures that I'm experiencing, and where are the pressures coming from? Are they from me, or are they from somebody else? I'd imagine that quite a lot of the pressure is coming from you. Because we place a lot of expectation upon ourselves, and I'm the worst for that. I place so much expectation on me, and I'm a real perfectionist. And sometimes when I feel like I'm failing at something, I find that more than I can bear sometimes. So I get it. I get how hard it can be, but we just have to sit with whose expectation is it? Is it mine or is it somebody else's? So really think about that, especially if it's around assignment deadlines and things. Often I can tell you this from a tutor point of view. As a tutor, I'm often drowning in marking. My students will tell you this. I'm drowning in marking. And if you need a little bit longer, if you're one of my students, you need a little bit longer, please ask. Please ask your tutor, because my marking backlog is there anyway. So if you need a bit more time, let your tutor know and organise with them to give yourself a little bit of breathing space. Of course, it goes without saying that not all colleges will authorise that, but I'm sure the vast majority would. And it also goes without saying that you don't want to end up in a situation where you're snowballing and that you're really backing your work up so much that it becomes even more overwhelming. But sometimes deadlines are guidelines, and so it's always worth asking the question to your tutor, please can we renegotiate a new deadline because I'm struggling with this? And so really have a think about that. What can you do to ease the pressure of this course and ease the pressure of this new counselling career that you're embarking on? Just sit in it and sit with it and recognise. So once you've taken a little bit of time to almost recalibrate yourself and to recognise what it is that's snowballing or what it is that's creating this feeling for you, then you might be thinking, well, then what? What do I do then? And I would say one of my favourite things is always to write it down. Just some bullet points, a list of all the things that are causing you to feel like things are not going well or causing you to feel really stressed and, emotional and fragile. What is it in your world that's causing that? Because there will be something, for sure. And so much of this will again come back to your own expectations of yourself. And counselling courses are lovely places to be, right? But they can also feel quite competitive. And I've said this so many times on this podcast, but I feel it's really important to reiterate it. You might be sat in the lesson and hearing people talking about placement, and I've got 2 placements now and I'm up to, 50 hours and I'm really getting on with it. And you might not have been able to start your placement yet. But just remember that it's not a competition. It's not a competition. And remember that the person or the people that have been able to start their placement and do their hours already, they may have a very different life to you. They may have a different personality to you. it doesn't make either of you right or wrong. It just makes you different. So recognise that it's okay. It's okay if each of you are different to each other. And finding something that suits you, finding a placement that suits you, is the most important thing. It's got to fit into your world for it to work. If it doesn't fit into your world, then it's going to be very challenging. So don't allow yourself to get sucked into pressure that's coming from other people. Although they're not putting the pressure on you, you hearing about where they're at in their work and in their career and in their counselling scores of, I guess, the counselling part of the course, that's none of your business in a way. What's it they say? It's not my business what anyone thinks of me. It's a little bit like that, isn't it? It's not to do with you. It's your stuff. And if you need a little bit longer before you can go on placement, that's good. That's fine. That's you taking your time and working through this in a way that's safe and ethical for you and for your clients. Your clients of the future will thank you for that. So sometimes I sit and just write some bullet points of all the things that are creating that pinch point for me. So yes, it might be assignments, it might be placement. Maybe you don't feel supported enough in supervision. That can be very, very challenging if you're feeling that your supervisor is judging you or hasn't got your back. Then that can be a real challenge. And that's something that I always say needs to be tackled if possible. If, it might be that you're sort of stuck with that supervisor depending on your placement, but I would hope that your supervisor can fill you up a little bit and help you to feel a little bit more energised at the end of a session, not feel more depleted. So have a real think about that. Are you in personal therapy still? And if not, do you need to go back to personal therapy? These counselling courses are really tough. They are really tough. They're designed to press a lot of buttons. They're designed to push us to our limits. They're very much designed to see where our own stereotypes and prejudices lie. I can never say that word, prejudices. I think that's vaguely it. I'm hoping you'll understand what I mean by that. Where do we have our feelings around that stuff? That's really important. Like, what are my feelings? What are my biases in life? We have to be able to push and prod within training in order to people to understand themselves and get to know themselves and increase their self-awareness. And as we all know, self-awareness is key for counselling, because we can't be with somebody else in their stuff unless we can be with ourselves in our stuff. Does that kind of make sense? I hope so. So I think it's about writing down some bullet points of all the things that you're trying to manage and having a look at what you can do with that. So maybe if it is assignments that are really backing up and you're struggling with any assignment, is it worth reaching out to a colleague or a peer on the course? Maybe somebody that you know has completed the assignment. And rather than feeling sense of competitiveness towards them or feeling a sense of, envy that they've done the work, maybe we could reach out to them and ask them, could you help me, or could you have a little look at this and see if you think I'm on the right lines? If that's not an option or that doesn't work for you, reach out to your tutor, explain the predicament. And you know what, as a tutor, it's a very tiring day teaching, and you guys will all know how exhausting counselling training is, and it's just so exhausting. It really is tiring. By the end of the day, most people are kind of on their knees, aren't they? And speaking on behalf of tutors, it's much easier when you reach out, but drop them an email and explain that you need to meet with them. And the beautiful thing is that Zoom exists now, and other platforms are available, of course. But, we can arrange meetings and things, and I would much rather do that for my students in so many respects than them trying to catch me at the end of the day when I'm absolutely knackered and don't have a lot of capacity. So I'm just speaking on behalf of myself there, I guess. Maybe some other tutors would prefer it a different way round. I'm not sure. All I'm saying is, one way or the other, try and reach out. Try and reach out to your tutor. Let them know that you're struggling if you are, and see whether you can negotiate more time and see whether you can check on something that you don't understand. Lots of courses will allow like a pass and refer kind of system. So it might be that you submit a piece of work, and if it doesn't quite hit the mark, your tutor will hopefully give you some detailed feedback as to what is needed in order to hit the mark. So if you're worried about referrals and getting a referral on a piece, do you know what? I really wouldn't worry. Most people get a referral on counselling courses at least once, in my opinion. And I really wouldn't worry. Not all assignments float our boat. We're not interested in all of them in the same way. It might be that you've picked up a very sort of dry, ethical type assignment perhaps, and you're more of a creative person that likes to, I don't know, maybe doing a research presentation is more your vibe. Sometimes that really dry subject for you, a subject that's not floating a boat, could be really difficult to write about. So if you do get a referral, I don't think that's the end of the world at all. I think there's a lot of learning in that. And I think you take away what the learning is. And I think that's really, really important. So I wouldn't worry about it. I'm not saying submit any old thing, but I'm saying that if you've done as much as you feel that you can do, and you've done your best, and you send it in and you get a referral on it, I wouldn't worry. And I'm speaking only on behalf of our college at the moment, as I say this, because I don't know what all colleges' systems are, but I'm sure that a lot of them will have a pass and a refer type system for their assignments. I'd be surprised if it's a pass and a fail type system. So allow that to happen. And if you have got a perfectionism streak like I've got, try and let that disappear for a moment and replace it with some compassion to be able to say, I have done my best. I've done all I can. I've done my best. So if the feelings that you're experiencing are related to assignments, that's some ideas that I've got there about how to move forward. If it's your placement that's causing you to feel the way that you're feeling, maybe you need to look at supervision and utilise supervision as much as you can. Really reach out. Let your supervisor know how you've been feeling. I think it's really, really important. And if you're feeling as if you're getting clients that are beyond your competency level, or you feel that you're not being very well supported in your placement, talk to your tutors as well. Talk to the college, let them know that you're struggling with this placement, and keep talking to your supervisor. Often it's not because of you, it's often because clients are being assessed by the placement, and sometimes they're more challenging and their issues are more complex than a student can manage, and that can happen sometimes, depending on how the client kind of presented in their first initial session that they might have had with somebody from the placement. So like an allocation type session, I think it's called an initial assessment. So when they're being initially assessed, they could present differently. And sometimes that means that they get allocated to a student counsellor when maybe they're not suitable to be allocated that way. So if you're feeling like you're working beyond your competency level and that's causing you to feel overwhelmed, then that's worth discussing with your supervisor for sure. Maybe with your placement provider, maybe with your college, but most certainly with your supervisor. So really sort of pay attention to that. I think the other thing that can cause a real drain on these counselling courses is often the group itself. And although everybody, some of the students, in fact, every single student that I've worked with have been lovely and amazing and unique in their own way. And I think that's really important that we get a real cocktail of people coming into counselling courses. But sometimes the group can create a tension. Maybe there's somebody that you don't quite vibe with in the group. Maybe there's somebody that, has inadvertently said something that has knocked your confidence. They won't have meant to have done that, but sometimes you could feel that way, right? And I think that sometimes the groups sort of set up their own little WhatsApp groups outside of the college setting. And sometimes that can become a negative place. If you've got a couple of people there struggling or a couple of people worried about something, it's amazing how that negativity can breed and spread through the group via WhatsApp. So have a look at your use of WhatsApp and those types of group messaging services that you might be using for the course, and see whether you're feeding off of other people's negative feelings or other people's anxieties, because sometimes that is the case. And before you know it, it feels like the whole group is feeling negative. So have a real think and check in with that, because I think that causes a lot of pressure at the same time as these groups can be really helpful and really supportive for each other. Have a little look at that. I think that's really, really important. I think the other thing that can sometimes escalate for counselling students is they put things off. So there might be an application that you really need to do for a placement. It might be an assignment that you've really put off. It might be about planning for a presentation that you haven't even started yet and it's due to happen next week. When you're putting things off, ask yourself this question: why am I not able to manage this right now? And what do I need to help me to overcome this? So think about the needs. What do you need? Is it that you're totally frazzled? Frazzled beyond anything that you can cope with right now? And it might well be that you're overwhelmed and you're burnt out and you've sort of gone into sort of shutdown mode. Or it might be that you're simply not interested that much in the topic that you're trying to write about if it's an assignment. If you've been putting off an application for the placement, if that placement is the right for you and it's the right place, perhaps you're worried about being rejected. Perhaps you're feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome. I have done a podcast before on imposter syndrome, and it's such a popular one. I think it's a very, very big problem, not just in the counselling world, but across the board. I think imposter syndrome is very difficult, and it gets so many downloads every year, that podcast. And I think it's because it's so innate within us. You know, us counsellors, we're nice people. We want people to like us and we want to help people, and it's really important that we're there helping. But it also feels like a lot of responsibility sometimes doing this work, and sometimes we can feel not good enough and feel like we're a fraud and someone's going to spot us soon and someone's going to let us know that I've recognised that you're not very good. But actually the reality is that so long as we can listen and so long as we have empathy, we can use the core conditions, so long as we can connect, that's what we need to be able to do. So yes, we need to be safe and we need to be ethical, but being human is really, really important. And so really remember that. You're human and you can connect with other humans, especially because you're doing the training and you're becoming so self-aware and you're growing and you're developing. And it's an amazing, amazing journey to be on. So don't let procrastination and putting things off railroad you. If you're thinking that there's a placement for you, then put yourself forward for it. If it's the right place, it will come through for you. And I like to think that nothing that is meant for me will go past me without me being able to grab it. If it's not meant for me, then maybe it will pass me by. But I try and look at things in that way if I can. And it's not always easy, but that's sometimes something I try and tell myself. If it's meant for me, I'll get it. So I think the last question to ask, because I've been rambling on for about 20 odd minutes now, is what do I need to be okay? And I know I've touched a bit on that already in this episode, but what do you need right now? Maybe you need a hug. Maybe you need to go off and have a massage. Maybe you need to go for a swim. Maybe you need to go for a walk. Maybe you want to sit and watch some trash TV or put a movie on with a hot chocolate. Sometimes we just need time to recalibrate and then we come back stronger. So really, please do give yourself a big hug and be compassionate, because this counselling training is not easy. And sometimes we need to be able to create a strength within ourselves so that we can keep going. And I talk here from so much personal experience as well. I know that it's hard. But I just want to say to you that you're doing it. You're doing a great job. You're working at it. And you're doing something so brave by training. Just keep going. It's worth it at the end, I promise. So, that's probably enough of me for one day. I'm sorry if it's been a bit of a down in the dumps type of podcast, but I'm hoping it's also uplifting in the sense that I've been able to maybe give you some things to think about in those moments. And you can always come back to this episode again whenever you need to. Whenever times feel tough, you can always come back to it. But I just want to say, as usual, thank you so much for all of your support. If you'd love to leave me a 5-star review on the platform of your choice, I would appreciate it immensely. Everything I do here is about trying to create a space, and the more people interact and engage, the more the space becomes bigger for others to join, and it reaches more people. So please, 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 anything you could do to help support the podcast in that way, I would really appreciate it. I just want to say good luck with everything and take care of yourselves, and I will catch up with you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.